Welcome to Rewind back to the 90s. Today I am joined by none other than Seb Fontaine.
Hi, how
Hi,
you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good. I got very damp on the way here, and I feel a bit of a drowned rat. And I lost at duvet wars with the dog last night, so I
Oh,
feel like I've been beaten up, mugged, and kind of surfed through the grime and rain to get
oh
here.
my goodness.
So
Well,
I hope we've got some good conversation ready
we
to put
have.
reminisce about some good times.
Oh, good. Well, I would actually want to start by asking you what kind of got you into DJing and when did you know that it was actually going to become a career for you?
Well, okay. So why I wanted to DJ had nothing to do with a career. I mean, I started, I think it was, watching like Grandmaster Flash and, all of that kind of stuff way before DJing was a career. And in the very beginning, when you take kind of rave scene days, 87, 88, I was into funk, hip hop, rare grooves, stuff like that. I didn't like house music. I liked the scene. I liked the whole thing. And, my hero was Norman Jay. I mean, we talk about superstar DJs. Way before there were superstar DJs, Norman was the man. I mean, I'm kind of from Ealing and all round that way, and actually lived in the next road to me, and I never knew. And I used to follow him around kind of Ealing and all these things, and Shake and Finger Pop and all the kind of family function parties that they used to do together, and Femi and everyone. And you know what? DJing was more. It was just, like that whole Saturday Night Fever thing where you work, he's working in a hardware store, and you just that's it, just to get through to the weekend, just to get to Friday, and then bang, life starts. That's how it kind of felt for me, and I was literally just, and even before I decided, right, I'm going to start DJing, we used to rock up to parties with a pocket full of tapes that we'd done with our double tape machine, and like pause
For that.
button mixes that sounded very kind of cold cuttish, like kind of just stops and starts. And we used to literally just not let anyone else near the tape deck, at parties. That's like when we were 15. And so it was never, have never, still don't think, right, I want a DJ to be famous and earn lots of money. Because no one, I mean, DJs were so far down the pyramid of importance in a nightclub back then. I think literally even the busboys used to look down at us. We really were the last to get paid, the first in, last out, and, just sneer. And like, listen, if you did get paid, and the promoter hadn't spent it on something nefarious, you'd be very lucky. So certainly fame and money was not it. It was a love of music. And I think always, I think someone asked me this before. I just, you know what? It was about like me thinking, I know what's going to put smiles on people's faces. I know that we're going to do something there. We're going to do something a little bit odd. And then when we do this, the place is just going to erupt. And I think I always had this kind of musical jigsaw in mind, even at like 16, 17, of, how things should be done. I mean, obviously, as DJs get older, they get better and wiser and you learn more and more. But being a 16-year-old, I thought I knew everything, but that kind of was my thing, it was about not throwing all your eggs out one basket all at once. It was about how to plan a party or an evening, and that's why we didn't let anyone near the tape machine, because no, you can't. We've got tape one, tape two, tape three, tape four, and if you make it to tape five, you're in for a treat. So it was a real. And I have to give props to my other friends that I was doing this with, Mackie and Matri and all these people. We were like, we're obsessed with music. And you know what? I'm gonna be so bad to my mum now. Like whenever someone says, "Oh, isn't your son doing well?" She goes, "Oh, yes." We've always, I've always kind of pushed him to do what he wants. Rubbish. It was like, when are you gonna get a real job? Get
Oh,
up,
no.
get up. There was no kind of be what you want to be.
Yeah.
That never
Follow your
happened.
dreams,
Yeah, yeah.
darling.
That very, very different in the, mid 80s. It certainly wasn't that. And I just constantly had this thing where I just want to, I want to see smiles on people's faces, and I've got this story to tell, and it, and I probably didn't even notice it how I'm describing it back then. It was just literally, I've got these songs, I've got to play them, but I wanted to play them in a certain way, and I'd still, I don't ever remember really a point where I'm thinking, God, I could earn money out of this. This could be a real job. it's just, you know what? I'm 55 now. So if I started then up 16, I've done it most of my life.
I know, what
I,
else would you do,
I
right?
just, what are you saying? I'm not good at anything? No,
No,
but yeah,
no.
no, I see what you're saying. I've lived and breathed this thing, this storytelling thing that I just, and I still fully believe in it. And I just, so money and fame and all of that nonsense. And like I said, superstar DJs did not did not exist then. So it was nothing to do with that. And I do actually remember the pivotal moment when I was being, like, I love hip hop, I love this and that. And I used to DJ at the back room in lots of raves, just when the whole thing. So I'm 17, 18
Yeah.
maybe. And, I'm signed out in my leather puffer jacket, playing Public Enemy, and I remember being this, I think we were in Deptford, it was somewhere like in a
Oh,
warehouse in Deptford. And the hip hop room was quite moody. It was quite moody. A lot of
I
guys all
remember
round
those
there. Put
times.
it like this, no one was doing the running man in the middle of the floor quite yet. Maybe that was my fault, but not quite yet. And things happened, and someone says, "Come in the other room." I was like, "Oh, I'm going in the room, bloody house music." And I just saw this thing, and I was like, "Wow, this." And I remember the record. It was Voodoo Ray,
Voodoo Ray,
and
I
there was
love that track.
people,
Guy called
which is
Gerald.
just hypnotic. I mean, it's like, I've got goosebumps. There.
Oh, I know, I have
Um,
too.
and I remember just seeing, and remember what I said about, I had this story to tell and smiling faces and all of this. And for me, seeing this room, and I just fell in love with it. I like almost instantly. I think deep down, I'd been slagging off house music, really quite liking it, but not letting myself like it. And then you put me in this in the other room in the rave, and I fell in love.
And that
I
was
literally,
it,
not
and you
literally with anyone, well, I probably did, but I literally fell in love with dance floors, house music, illegal warehouse parties, all in like the space of 30
30
seconds.
seconds. So could you be found in the field with your kind of whistle and glow stick and white
Yeah, you know
gloves?
what? I think most of the fun of the raves was the journey. But like going to the call box and they said, "Look, there's a load of souped up minis and Golf GTIs in that petrol station. Let's ask them." And it was like one of like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, it
It,
was.
it really was a treasure hunt. The bit in the field, yeah, it was all right. Quite like it. It was the getting there. It was the excitement. It was the being part of something illegal, fun, something that our parents, because you're 18, your parents don't understand.
No.
Nightclubbing to them was, and listen, I know both my parents spent a lot of time in nightclubs, but it was generally drinking and dancing around a handbag and
Yeah,
trying to pull, and we were doing it differently. And so being a kind of rebellious teenager, it felt like we were just doing part of, and if I kind of, on a kind of social kind of thing, I didn't realize how rebellious, how important what we were doing was then. I do now, in terms of, no, we're not going to get married at 21 years old. We're not going to toe the line. We don't want a job for life. We want to go out. We want to have fun. And actually,
yeah,
you're talking to me about stuff that I'm not interested in yet, and I might not be for another 10 years. I'm 19 years old.
mm,
And I think that kind of rebellious streak that we all had really kind of bonded us all together. I mean, everyone talks about our generation. I always call it, we're the Peter Pan generation. We don't like
we
growing
are.
up. We're still in nightclubs
I know.
4 weeks after knee surgery. We're still there. And, I just think we've always had that. And I think there's been a bond that we were that generation that just completely bucked the trend. I know, listen, you might say, if you were born in the 60s, oh yeah, but what about this? What about punk? What about that? I don't know. It just felt, and listen, I have full respect for punks, goths. I used to love walking down the King's Road
So
and
did
just seeing
I.
all these. Listen, when I still
By
see
the
a
phone
goth the other
box.
day, I want a
By McDonald's.
round of applause, because I just, because at least you don't all look the same. You don't all look the same. We've become this kind of, everyone looks the same. Everyone's got the
Homogenous.
same man bag, the same sliders, the same thing. We all, we're all the same. But back then, and that's what was different about what we did, I think. We united a whole generation, pretty much. Even the football hooligans stopped
Yeah.
being
They
hooligans.
did, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they
Yeah.
they
They were
stopped
loving
everything.
each other at the
Yeah,
weekend at a
and
rave.
we really united north, south, Scotland. We just were traveling around the country. I think before then, most people had never even dreamt about going night clubbing in another city. And then all of a sudden, every weekend, we're like, right, yeah, is there room for one more in a car? No, we've already got nine.
Yeah.
We've got nine in my car. And we were just going around the country trying to
Mm.
find new parties, new friends, new
Crazy.
music, and loving being 19 years old. And when you've got people saying, and I really, sorry to rant about it, but when you've got people saying, oh, it's not as good as it was, and I feel really, I don't like saying that. I know what we had was special, and I know it's changed, but the essence of being a 19-year-old, finding your feet in the world, rebelling against your parents, doing being part of a movement, because that's what it
It
was. It
was a
wasn't just
movement, yeah.
it wasn't just music. It was a whole movement. It was clashing against a society that we didn't agree with. It was clashing against all. Although that's not how I felt at the time. I wasn't political at all back then. But certainly I see it for what it was now,
No.
and how we were laying the ground roots for changing things. And it just it. And so back to my point, I just think to be 19 years old again and to go clubbing, but it doesn't matter if it wasn't the same as it, but it doesn't matter. You're 19, you're finding your feet. What a glorious time to be alive. You enjoy yourself and don't let anyone else tell you that what you're doing is
Doing yeah.
wrong or not as good as what they did, because it's wrong. You're 19, do it.
Yeah. Could you ever have envisaged at the age of 19 that your career was going to go or be as stratospheric as it became?
No, I mean, as I said, even the bus boys were kind of flicking bogies at us. I mean, really, we were the scum of the earth, the DJs. We really were weird little people that hung around in record shops on Saturday mornings, spending 4 times the amount of money that you earned as a DJ on records. It's a very odd thing. We
Mm.
were really quirky, beard
Been
strokey weirdos,
yeah.
and I never thought anyone would kind of say, oh, we get to the kind of levels that it did.
Did, yeah. Well, obviously, you played the London club circuit, places like Crazy Larry's, like Subterranean West London. So that's how you kind of started. What was that, your big break?
But my
What was
dad
your
had a
big turning
pub
point?
just on the
Mm,
Fulham Road, just off the King's Road, near the kind of Westwood shop and all that. So I grew up kind of on the King's Road. I grew up above the pub. So I grew up on the King's Road in a wonderful time. There was like artists,
yeah.
punks, it was all going on. I saw it all. And I drive down the King's Road now and I just shake my head in. Listen, it's a very nice
Uh,
place, but what it had, there used to be shops on the King's Road. You're almost scared to go in. You'd
yeah,
go in
yeah,
there
yeah.
and there'd be someone having their kind of like inner thigh tattooed with,
Yeah,
and you'd be
I
like, I
remember
know that,
that.
I was like 13. It was a great place to grow up. It was very, it was very creative. But talking back on that whole thing where everyone had these little styles, there were tribes of people.
Mm,
You had the rockabillys. It was everything. It was a wonderful time to be alive. But then, the dance thing started happening. I started DJing Crazy Larry's and so, I was DJing in a couple of clubs. I think when I was 17, I shouldn't have even been in there. I mean, now I'm getting ID'd to go to Printworks or wherever now, and I'm 55. I don't know how we would have got in any, although it was the old paper licenses. We go, so what is your birthday? Oh,
oh,
it's that
yeah.
number at the end and that one
They're
there.
there,
But
yeah.
the two in the middle, ignore those. Ignore those. They mean nothing. But it was easy to get into clubs. So I kind of, you know what? I kind of, so I started Crazy Larry's and there was a couple of other things. And then, God, there's a little place called Roxanne's, which was always a lot of fun in South Ken.
Oh, I don't
Uh,
remember that one.
mm, yeah. Anyway,
Ah,
so and
masquerading as something
yeah,
else.
well,
No.
maybe, who knows? Anything, but I think a lot of it was back then. And then kind of ended up at Subterranean, where I was kind of warming up for Norman Jay
Mm.
and Jeremy Healy,
Oh.
and so and that was Davina McCall that got me that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Was
because
it?
she was a booker at Models One. She's lovely, Davina.
Oh, she
Just
is
love,
so
I just
loved.
love her.
I
She's
know.
awesome. And you know what? And I remember actually, she got that. So she was the booker at Models One. She was part of the crew at Subterranea because obviously she knew loads of models.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I was kind of like her little DJ for a while. And like I said, we were both kids. She's like the same age as me. And so she kind of gave me one of my, you know, one of the first kind of breaks that helped me on my kind of little thing, because I'm now DJing with Norman and Jeremy and Febby. So
I know.
it was a great club. And also what I really liked about Subterranea was it was not only was great people. It was middle of Ladbroke Grove, but you'd be playing funk, hip hop, house. You'd be playing
Yeah,
everything in the
everything.
same night. And I do like that. And that's one thing I do miss slightly. How everything has to be, like one speed, one thing. I kind of like that way.
Yeah, yeah.
How a night progressed back then.
Mhm.
And I kind of miss that.
So did Ministry of Sound very much have their eye on you at this time? Because obviously
Ha.
the club opened and early 90s and obviously you were at Subterranea. Did they kind of
I listen,
think
I
I
don't think
want
anyone had their eye on me. Well, not no one that wants to admit it anyway. I was like 19, 20. I was like a kid, but Jim Masters and Lynn kind of, I mean, if you look at the old Ministry flyers, Seb Fontaine, I'm right down the bottom and
Oh.
little, I was like the baby. And they were lovely. They really looked after me. And, I wasn't resident or anything now, but I was playing once or twice a month in
Yeah.
the bar and stuff like that. And
Oh,
it
the
was
jello shots in the
the
bar.
Jello shots, yeah, because it was alcohol free. To get that license, there was no alcohol, so the only way you could get pissed with Jello shots.
Yeah.
So you'd be going in, I can have 4 bottles of water and 20, and it was just a fun time. I have wonderful memories of that time, and ministry, and I probably don't get enough chance to say thank you to people, but I owe them a debt of gratitude because they really did take me under their wing a little bit. And
Mm.
I was 19. It's not, I had a small following from where but they kind of really helped me.
Yeah. So from that point on, were you very much like, I'm going to do my own thing, create your own thing? Because obviously Malibu Stacy came along as well, didn't it, in
Well, I,
93?
I think I think the next thing really, and possibly the biggest springboard, was becoming resident at the Cross when it first
Oh, yeah.
opened for Billy Riley and Johnny and me and Luke Neville. And funny enough, we did the Cross birthday last weekend,
Did
and
you?
Luke and I
Oh
still do
no,
a
I wish
four.
I'd
We
been
do
there.
it. We did a 4 hour back-to-back set. We do one every year, and
I
what the
bet.
funniest thing about that is, we spend more of the night giggling like little girls in a sleepover than we do
It's making me laugh.
actually playing music. We just sit there giggling and just chuckling and like even pushing each other off we just dick about for about 4 hours and have the best time. And I love Luke Neville, but definitely the Cross was, I think, my first. To say anything wasn't serious beforehand, but it was certainly the first residency that maybe Subterranean was, but it was the first acclaimed kind of residency that you were now on the
Yeah.
proper London. I think Subterranean was more of a West London thing. The Cross was a
Yeah.
real, and also it was a bloody cool place to
It was
be.
brilliant.
It was
It's
amazing.
glitterati the night was, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so Luke and I did that. And, I think that, and then I did Malibu Stacy.
Mm.
And, and so I've always had kind of residencies or my own things, or, I've always enjoyed that,
Yeah.
having a bit of a home
Home
somewhere.
thing. But Malibu Stacey's was very big, wasn't it, for any
Mm.
Londoner? I mean, I think I was at university at the time.
We had some nights we had 5 times more people outside than you could fit in the club.
I know. I
The
remember.
queue used to go
I remember.
all around the square and back. And I was thinking, like, this is nuts. The problem with that is when a place is that trendy, it's then not trendy 3 years later. It,
No.
it, it will be brutally quick and amazing. And then all of those super cool, darlingy type people, 2, 3 years, oh, it's done now. It's done.
Yeah.
We go somewhere else. Unlike something like the Gallery, which has just gone on for years and years and years, and obviously is my friends Paul and Danny,
Done.
you
Yeah.
know, Malibu Stacy it shined very brightly and very fast.
Fast.
And it was only it was a 3/4 year, love affair with London
With
there.
but describe the kind of atmosphere there because it's very glamorous, wasn't it? People would really kind of get dressed up. It was, and people like
Yeah.
Sarah Cox, I remember being there, and
Oh, we had all kinds of. I
we-
mean, listen, I'm the least. I'm the last person to get excited about celebrities in clubs. I'd rather not have any of them. So I'm not going to start naming names and who went there because actually it just doesn't matter because that's not what it was about.
yeah,
I hate all that.
yeah,
I don't watch celebrity TV. I don't watch any of that nonsense. But it got a lot of love from a lot of people, and you know what? It was just very very good fun, that place. I mean, but though those Saturday nights used to end on Monday morning
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
I mean, Oh God, I'd shiver just thinking about that walk home now.
Now we're in bed by 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
Or not if you're well, no, if you're still DJing,
yeah,
you but those were good times.
yes.
And then but
It
then
might
ob
have taken 10 years off my life, but yeah, they're probably worth it still.
I'm sure they were. But then things just seem to kind of roll on from one thing to the next because then by what, the late 90s, obviously you were a resident at Cream, weren't you?
Yeah,
Open
Cream was my next and probably my last. I don't know if I've had another residency since Cream. I mean, I play for lots of people regularly, but that was my the last thing where where you're there most weeks. I think I'd
mm,
only had 1 week off, 1 week off a
wow.
month in which I did other things. Flew to America. I had to try and spread myself thin, but it coincided with Radio One for quite a bit, so I had to be in the country anyway. So it kind
Yeah.
of worked out anyway. But Cream was special. I mean, Oki said to me, because at one point I was meant to be taken over from Oki, and then Oki decided to stay on for a year,
Mm,
and then Cream said, "But we're still going to have you as well." But it was Oki that said to me, "You got to do this. That you
yeah.
you have no idea, what this will do for you as a human being. Having this kind of level of connection with a crowd every week.
Yeah.
And what you can do musically, and also how bloody cool Liverpool is,
Yeah.
and how you will literally just take this city, into your heart. And all of those things were true.
Wow. And so what is that, 3,000 capacity or
Oh,
more?
I think it was more than that.
Wow.
You know what? There were so many rooms, and they had so the courtyard's probably 1,200, main rooms probably 2,000, annex. I'm pretty sure the door clicker was broken a few weeks because there was more than 3,000 in there. I know that. I mean, I've seen some of those videos, but it was just an insanely good
Good
place.
place.
And I still, I think maybe it's because of my age, and I'm so thankful to Cream and everyone for giving me that chance. And more important, I'm thankful to the people of Liverpool that stood on that dancer every weekend, screaming, shouting, dancing, whooping, and saying, "Mate, what time are we going to play Fiji?" Which is what happened to me every single week. And you know what? It's some of the happiest days of my life.
And do fans from that time still, write to you or, go on
Yeah.
social media, write to
Yeah.
you? So that's a bit old fashioned, isn't
Yeah,
it?
you know what?
Write
It's
to you.
really weird when people say, "Oh, you're fans." I find it really odd. I don't go, "Oh, my fans." I don't, and everyone says, "Well, there's nothing wrong with that." I just find it odd. I don't feel like I'm any someone that should have had a fan. I just kind of think, "Oh, they're people that quite like what I do." Or so I know
Mm.
which is what fan is, but I just think, "Oh God, I hate that." I don't know why I hate that word. And I'm being overly, I guess I'm quite shy,
Shy.
and I just don't like the idea of like, hello my fans. It's never, but yes, I do get lovely messages from people. I also get a little bit of abuse from people. Someone goes, and I guess we'll touch on classics and something in a
Yeah.
minute, but literally sometimes they go, "I was really upset with you that you did not play a certain record." And like, it wasn't that kind of night.
Yeah.
It wasn't that kind of night that I could play like a deep techno record, in Henley Town Hall. I said, there are places and there are times, and but generally, it's yeah, no, I don't get a lot of abuse. I'm
Y-
probably making that, but I do get lovely messages from people,
mm.
not fans, people.
But for people, yeah.
Yeah,
But my friends used to always hang out at the DJ box. It seemed to be a real thing of the 90s, as superstar DJs became more prominent, it was seen, there was that hysteria around people like yourselves.
have you seen like? I mean, you go on Instagram now, you see DJs now, and they're surrounded by people. Like there's
I know.
people jostling them, and I think that was started by Boiler Room. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
That would drive me nuts. Like, get up, but I don't even like people. I remember the old when they had this DJ box in Privilege. Who can't remember which
Yeah.
one it
Yeah.
was at that point. Probably Privilege, and it was in the middle of the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Which is, if you had a few Chapitos, it was quite a long walk to that pool. Kind of, you felt like you should have the bar, the
Yeah.
balance
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
tightrope. And I never liked it because there's like 2,000 people behind you, and it wasn't a box around you, and it just all felt a
Felt,
bit, oh,
oh,
yeah, I don't like it. Anyway, so those kind of boiler room sets with people jostling me, I do not like that.
you don't
That
like
would
that.
drive me
Would
nuts.
you just tell someone, step back now, please?
Pepper spray. Pepper spray's your friend. I'd be just like that. with a fan. I'd be like spraying it, you know. I don't know. It would. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't
Yeah,
concentrate. With, I mean, listen. Obviously, I've been in many a DJ box. I've been full of your mates and whatever, and people you'd have, but having all these people jostling to be on a camera next to you,
yeah.
sod that.
And I suppose back in the day, there wasn't those phones. People weren't kind of clamoring to get that shot of
No,
you.
I mean, listen. You know what? I really try not to get onto the. Oh, it was wonderful. There was no phones, but a friend of mine took a picture of Amnesia last year when I'm playing, and I put it on my Instagram, and he took it in black and white, and he just kind of caught it in between the lasers and the lights and it could have been taken 30 years ago. It's the coolest photo. Everyone on that dance floor is just like that. The people up on the balcony are like that. And you know, there's probably two phones out in about 3,000 people. So as much as I don't want to go, yeah, you know, oh, no phones. But you look at a picture like that and it shows you something that
Yeah,
people are actually enjoying the moment, not
yeah,
staring at a screen. But you know, I do get that people want to have a little snapshot of the evening or grab a couple of pictures, but standing there for an hour, literally like that, I don't get.
you don't get, yeah.
But then we have also got onto this thing where, when I started DJing, no one was putting the DJ on a stage. You know, the DJs were just like in a little box somewhere. There might have been a little light and you shouldn't have to look at the DJ. And it really should be listening and kind of and I don't know whether going to this thing of paying the DJ lots of money and making him the visually the star of the show is the right thing. I don't know if Clubland's better for that or not. Probably not.
Not, yeah. I mean, you talked about Amnesia. Obviously, that's a club particularly close to your heart. You played there, what, for 3 years in a row?
I played there for 20 odd years, but I was resident for three
Resident for
years
3 years, yeah.
on Thursday night. Oh God. Oh, I got goosebumps and shivers at the same time there. It was all good and bad. All like little.
I've seen Boy George DJ that and Paris Hilton.
Mm, yeah.
5 years international DJ.
Well, there you go. Boy George, I love Boy George, man. I listen. I'll be, but Amnesia was a wonderful, wonderful place. It still is. You know, I played there about 2 months ago, and it was just magical. It was so so good. You know what? While the visuals are good, sounds right. It's not designed when you look at other clubs in Ibiza and it's just designed to look good on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's designed to, and this is not. It's kind of almost like a warehouse.
It's a warehouse.
It's
It's like
like a
that one
posh
big
warehouse
room. It
party.
is. It
And
is.
I
When you
think,
get in that big room, you can't move, right?
and
It's
I
one way
love
in,
it.
one
I
way out.
love it. It's clubbing how I fell in love with clubbing, and
Yeah.
I just have a solid love for Amnesia. I mean, this year, along with Pikes, which is my, one of my favorite places on earth, 528 was awesome this year.
Yeah. Was it?
528
Was it?
it
Yeah.
was, everyone talked about another club that opened, but for me this summer, partly because I wasn't booked to play the other club, but for me, I mean, I thought 528 was wonderful. It was because I played there a lot. I played there like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And I spoke about this. I love having a bit of a home and I love coming there and everyone's like, hi Seb, how you doing? It just, I like that coming back
But
and doing things and seeing friends and maybe I'm getting old.
no.
No, I know I'm getting old, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what
I
you mean.
like having this thing. And I think, this year has been so busy, so
So
busy.
busy. It's just
And I just think having a regular thing that you love, I did a couple of Pikes, Amnesia, 4 or 5 528s. I think I probably had my best summer in Ibiza that I've had for 15, 20 years.
that's really cool.
Yeah,
I've
really
enjoyed
nice.
it very much. So Kevin and Perry was obviously filmed at Amnesia, and you were DJing, weren't you?
Yeah.
In it, it's 25 years.
So
I
what
think
they did,
came
they
out.
set up fake decks, put Harry Enfield and Kathy Burt on them, who were lovely, by the way. I loved working with them. They were so cool. And so what they did was they dimmed the lights on the real DJ box and
Yeah.
then put the light on for them. And I had to play the record. And so all of those crowd scenes are all filmed at Cream. And if you look when they're playing, you see the real DJ box. You see it because they've got that graphic equalizer
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
that they've always had. And you'll see us all in there messing about, laughing, and what a night. And whenever I watched that film, it was quite funny. of all the, like Human Traffic, Train Spotting, all of those films of the time, Kevin and Perry was like the jokey one. It was a bit silly,
It was so brilliant.
but it's kind of stood the test of
It
time better than some,
has. It
like
has.
like Train Spotting, Human Traffic, which I loved. And you look at now, God, it's a bit, it's a bit cheesy, but I mean, because seeing Danny die when he's about 12, knocking out pills, and it just kind of, I just think Kevin and Perry is still kept its place of where it
Yeah.
should be.
B.
Yeah, and
And
it's funny.
and the fact that they market, at the club,
Yeah.
and you were there, weren't you, for the Kevin and Perry
Yes.
anniversary? So you played.
Yeah, I mean, we do it every year. And I
Mm.
mean, look, I think when they first did it, I was a bit like, oh, this sounds a bit cheesy. I'm not so sure. But Nick Ferguson, who I love dearly, was like, trust me, this is going to be good. And everything he said was right. And it's kind of become less about the Kevin and Perry thing. They don't have like the impersonators anymore. It's just a flag in the ground for if you liked clubbing in Ibiza at that time,
Mm.
I like Cream, around that
Yeah.
2000s, go to that night because that will be the closest thing to you've had, going out 20 years ago.
Go.
And it really is. And everything Nick said was true. And it's just become, I mean, I think they had about 4,000 or 5,000 this year. It was just immense.
Wow.
I mean, it just a wonderful thing. And I'm so happy and proud to be that I'm kind of part of that little family, the One More Time family, because they really have done something pretty special there.
Yeah. What would you say is the most hedonistic moment that you've had in Ibiza
Oh
in your
God,
early days?
this is filmed, right?
Yeah, this is something you
I
might.
don't know what
Okay.
you mean. I listen. I think those, whether hedonistic or fun. I mean, look, my parents met in Ibiza. I was conceived in Ibiza. My dad used to have a restaurant in Ibiza town. I think I was destined to go out and have good nights. I mean, my dad's told me about wonder. I think my dad's nights in Ibiza sound more hedonistic than mine. He used to tell me the days before aircon, they used to just come out in their underpants, wringing their clothes, out some like the hole in a wall in Ibiza town. I don't think mine can compare with his actually. So, but the Radio One weekends were wonderful.
Yeah.
The Cream, and the early days of Manumission,
Yeah.
they were wonderful times as well.
Oh
And
man.
Clockwork Orange,
And
of
Clockwork
course,
Orange as
Clockwork
well.
Orange,
Yeah.
which was one of my first clubs in Ibiza. Not my first club, but the first people I started playing regularly for in Ibiza.
Mm.
The Clockwork Orange is a success on another level.
Level. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
they've
Yeah.
done now.
So from the mid 2000s, we saw maybe, I don't know, the height of, I don't know, the superstar DJ and the club thing starting to sort of ebb away slightly. Do you feel it became as popular? What do you think that
I
was kind of
think
down to?
I think there was a thing. Some people could say that the millennium was the beginning of the end
Yeah.
of the world, but no,
Well, you were Millennium DJ though, weren't you?
no,
You were
for
named
super
DJ of the
clubs,
Millennium.
I think was I?
Yeah,
I
by
don't know.
Music Magazine.
I didn't know that. I must have missed it. I must have been busy. Anyway, I think the millennium and the whole kind of bit of a cash cow it became, and
Yeah.
the ticket. It seemed to be the cliff that everything got pushed over a little bit, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of people. But I think more than that, I think you got to the end of a bit where a generation started having kids, a generation started having, that generation that I told you when we're 19, we're not getting a job
Yeah.
yet. I think it got to a point where shit got real.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm 34. I can't,
I better get married and have kids
I've
now.
got to do something. And I feel that there might have been a bit of a cliff that everyone was like, so I've got 3 kids and I'm still, messing around. And I just feel that generation, I don't think it was the millennium and the cash cow that it become, but I do think it was. And I think a lot of the super clubs, you could talk about all of them, absolutely all of them, certainly suffered Gatecrasher, Cream, and it changed, and
Yeah.
the landscape changed, and that's DC-10 started getting Circo Loco and Ibiza, and everything got a little very, very cool and
Mm.
underground, and it went the very antithesis of what had been the super club, and minimal house and the
Yeah.
whole thing,
Yeah.
and that whole
It
kind of
was.
mid noughties to late noughties, actually, I think it was. I really kind of gave the last kick in the
Kicking it.
yeah,
Yeah.
for the super clubs.
So how did that feel for you at the time, like to sort of evolve? Because obviously had you become a dad by then?
Oh God, yeah,
Yeah.
I was dad ages ago. I mean,
When was your first child born? 2000?
Maths. Live on air. Welcome to Live on Air Maths with Seb Fontaine. All right, I'll keep it simple. Herbie's 27 and Emmy's
Yeah.
23.
Okay,
You do
fine.
the
Yeah,
maths.
I'll do the maths. So they were born in the
Subtitles
they
coming
were
up
born in
now.
the late 90s then.
Idiot
Yeah.
boy here has not worked out that it was 30 anyway, but yes, that's what we're talking about.
So presumably those kind of, from 2000 to 2010, you were very much focusing on being a dad though.
No, I was an awful father. Awful, terrible.
Never
I was
around.
still out every night, every night.
Yeah, managing to juggle it,
You know
obviously.
what? The funniest thing back then, I, I just didn't have a body clock. I could go to bed at 7 in the morning after work one night and sleep for 10 hours. And then the next night I'd be waking up at 7 in the morning to take the kids to
At
school.
school,
I
yeah.
just didn't have a body clock. Now I'm like, if there's a slight ripple in the ecosphere, and I go to bed a little bit, that's it. God,
Yeah.
I'll never go to sleep now. That's it. And if I go to sleep now at 4 in the morning, I still wake up at 7.
Yeah,
And I've got everything. I've got Alexa on whisper. Alexa, what time is it? So you haven't got to look at things or talk loudly. I've got my eye mask.
earplugs.
Alexa, what time is it? It's 7 o'clock. Oh, because if I start looking at things, I'm awake. But I just sleep's different.
Sleep,
Man.
I know.
That's young people. Sleep now.
Sleep now.
Anyone when your parents say get out of bed, you're lazy. Sleep as long as you can because it changes. You just don't sleep.
Sleep at all. So, but being a father was a very important role to you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, did you find it very grounding in an industry
Absolutely.
which can obviously be
Absolutely.
a
You
bit
know
crazy?
what? I think I wouldn't say I was one of the first people out my mates to have kids, but certainly around, they're all my kid a little bit older. And you know what? There's something to be said by having them. I probably was like 28, 29 when I had Herbie, which is not really in the,
Yeah.
that young, but it felt it at the time. I don't think lots of people were having kids. And something about it is that I think it was easy to take on sleepless nights or thing because I'd had sleepless
Yeah,
nights
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
and it felt very easy and you had energy. I mean, God, I couldn't imagine having a baby now. I'd just be, it would be bouncing around the house and, getting up to all sorts. And I'd just be like, I can't get up. I can't deal
Watch
with
this
this.
space this time
But
next
I
year.
think by being quite young and having lots of energy, I kind of, it didn't feel like it was tying me down. It didn't feel like, it was changing my life in any way badly. It was grounding. It was nice.
So how did it change your life having children though? Like, did it give you a different perspective
I was
on
a lot
life? Is it
poorer.
yeah, a
It was
lot.
a lot poorer.
Yeah. Yeah,
Children
that
are
definitely
expensive.
definitely a deficit on the old finances. Hits the wallet. But yeah, did you find that you felt like, oh, I'm not going to take that gig on because I don't want to not be at home
Um,
anymore?
I tell you what it did do when I got divorced, and obviously you haven't got that family unit. I decided that I wasn't going to travel anymore. I didn't want to be on planes, partly for my own personal mental health. I didn't want to be in the middle of butt fudge nowhere, in a hotel room at 4 in the morning, missing my kids.
Yeah.
Being on a 10-hour flight away. I
Mm.
wanted to be as close as possible. And, I with agreement, I had certain days of the week and I didn't want to be saying, I can't do those days now because I said that that's what I wanted. I wanted those days. I wanted still to see my kids 3 nights a week. So I wasn't about to mess that up by going prancing around the world. And also, I don't think I wouldn't have been happy being on the other side of the world at that point.
Mm.
So I stopped traveling. I stopped touring.
You stopped
I stopped
touring.
touring, which was a tough thing, a tough thing to balance the whole thing, and particularly when that wasn't a particularly great time for the UK for clubs and things were changing as we talked about. So it was a big decision, but it's still one I think I got right because I just don't think I'd have been happy
Mm.
on planes every weekend and the arse end of the world, well, when
Yeah.
all of that was going on back home.
Yeah. And how old were your children when you got divorced?
I'm going to have a little stab at guess at 12 and 8.
Like 12 and 8.
But it's something around that. Could have been 10
Yeah.
and
So
6.
they were still young and
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah, and I
need
enjoyed being with them, and I
yeah.
enjoyed I still enjoy being with them.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like now where
No.
I don't like hanging out with
Yeah,
no, I
they're in
mean,
their late
no, but
20s, they can do their
they're
thing.
sweet then, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah,
sweet and less expensive.
and you can tell them what to do.
And they listen
It's
to you and they still look at you like you're not an idiot yet. You know,
yeah,
there were wonderful times. I wanted to grab every minute of with no side eye, no back chat. I wanted every minute of
yeah,
that
yeah.
cute bit.
Oh, and are they your harshest critics when it comes to your
Brutal.
perform
Brutal.
are they?
No, they you
No.
know what? Listen, they're both a dream.
Are
I've said
they?
it live on air now.
Like their dad? Yeah, are they? Just in what way?
They're
Just
just
the
both funny. They,
mm,
I like hanging out with both of them, and they are just, you know what? They're just
mm.
everything I want them to be.
They must be proud of you. Do they see you as this
Well, if they are, they certainly don't tell me.
oh, do they
But I'm
see you as
sure they are. I'm sure. I don't know. I don't. I don't know. I'm
yeah,
look. I'm.
you're
Who
just
knows? But we're not. We're not like a loving sharing. Like proud of you, son. Oh, proud of you, dad. We're not really those
not
people.
that really kind of people.
No.
But and these you mentioned earlier that you got married again recently.
Yeah, I got married again in May, June.
Wow, and how was that?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Much smaller. I mean, it was a very small thing. But we've been together 15 years, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna be really honest. We just thought we've been together 15. We're gonna do it, blah blah blah, and we didn't. But it did do something. It did do something. Even after 15 years, it certainly made everything nice. There was something that I didn't think was going to happen that happened.
really?
Yeah, and
In what way?
I don't know how to describe it. Just everything. It's like rose tinted spectacles.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like put them down and it's like Wizard of Oz when it goes from black and white to color. It was that
What?
wonderful. Life just became that
Oh,
wonderul.
I love that. So there wasn't any reservations about I'm never getting married.
No,
I'm not doing this again.
well, I think anyone who gets divorced says that at some point. But no, I mean, look, we've been together 15 years, and
Mm,
and we're very happy, and so I didn't think anything was going to change, but
mm.
it did. It did.
Yeah, that's good. So is that when you got rid of your vinyl collection that she agreed to
No,
marry
no,
you?
no, no, no. Funny enough, I got rid of 80% of my vinyl about 15 years ago.
Oh, so just when you met then you got rid of the vinyl.
Well, that was just part of, getting, having to move from, all of
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. And actually, I still think it was the best thing I did because the 20% of the collection that I now have, I use a lot, or I go through and I do things. I said, when it was so vast, it was like a whole room.
yeah.
This is just too much. And
It's
so also, I had like 15 copies of some
mm,
records that people did, so it actually cutting it. And I did it in three culls. I think the first one was a very tentative cull. Like, oh no, I like
yeah,
that and I
it's
like that.
so
And I
hard to
think
get
by
rid
the
of vinyl.
third time, I was like, if I didn't recognize it, I thought I'm never going to
That was
play it. I'm
it.
just off it goes.
Off it went.
I had to get brutal because I was moving and all of this kind of stuff. And you know what? I'm happy with what I've got now. I think vinyl, and it's probably quite funny. The vinyl I did keep was probably a lot more of the stuff where the vinyl actually meant something to me inside. It was a lot of the early hip hop, the
Yeah.
red groove, the stuff when I used to hang around record shops and, like, "Oh, please let me buy this. Please can
Please,
I
I
buy
need
this
this. I
this bit
have
of plastic?" And it wasn't the stuff later on that I was playing and being sent lots of, or,
mm,
and all that probably didn't have the same um emotional
emotional
connection.
connection,
So
yeah.
I bet you if someone looked through my record collection, they might be quite surprised at what I came and they're like, "What, you gave that away?" I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not going to be really playing much techno at home
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever." I kept the stuff. Probably it's more to do with the early side of
It's
my
yeah.
DJing.
But so do you feel quite nostalgic though when we talk about vinyl
I
in that
do,
way of
I do, but I also don't get hooked on it. And
yeah.
when we're talking about that whole thing about to young people, "Oh, it's not as good as it was back in my day." I don't really like DJs saying, "Oh, well, let's see how good you are on vinyl," but it's not relevant. It's
It's not
not relevant
relevant, no.
because I get that vinyl's big and vinyl's having a small comeback, but for the
Mm,
DJ today, if you wanted to start, you're going to go a digital
a
route,
digital route,
and
yeah.
I just don't think it's right to kind of if that's what someone wants to do, I don't think it's right to say, "But I did it better," or "I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
it." I just
Yeah.
don't. Listen. I think we should be underpinning young people with creative talent, not
Mm,
not trying to knock that foundation down.
down. talking about young people, do you think it's interesting now that the John Lewis ad has come out with the Alison Limerick Where Love Lives, and that generation are getting to see that kind of 90s classic that they've never heard
The thing
before?
about it is, I think they probably have heard it before because it's that special a record.
Yeah.
Um, when I saw it, I thought it was AI. I thought someone clever had knocked it up on Chat GPT, and I thought, do I share this? What do I do with this? Because I don't. I mean, now the one thing about AI is we don't trust anything anymore,
No.
which might not be a bad thing because before AI, we're like, is it photoshopped? Did that lion really bite that woman's head off? We just didn't. We weren't sure. Now no one trusts anything, and with the amount of scams going on, not a bad idea. But when I saw it, I just didn't. But I have a funny thing with these classics, and I think classics should be looked after. It's very easy for a wonderful record to become that record. You just think, oh God, not this again. Like I've heard this every hen night for the last, 30 years. And that's one of those records for me. I love it. It's really good. Would I play it? No, not really. Because I like to look after records, and I
Mm,
like to. I mean, I've got records. We were talking about Fiji earlier on,
mm.
and people say, "Why didn't you play Fiji?" And I just kind of think, night wasn't quite there. It wasn't quite.
Yeah.
You almost. I think nights need to deserve certain records. If you just played them everywhere,
Mm,
they get overused and no one wants them anymore. And I was
yeah.
like, oh God, not that again. I mean, you get a. I don't know. I mean, I'm really on the fence with the Where Love Lives because it is a wonderful record. It's a beautiful record and it does spark emotions. Do I think now I'm going to get very sick of it? Probably.
Yeah.
And I think that's why my heart sank a little bit. I loved the advert. I thought it was very clever.
Yes, it's a good
It
concept,
was
isn't it? With
really
the
nice. It
father
was
and the
really,
son and
it's the best John Lewis advert since the dog on the trampoline.
yeah.
And I know that doesn't sound like I'm giving it much credence, but I love the dog on the trampoline. And I just think, oh no, that's another record now that I
Record.
can't play because
No.
it's going to be played at every bloody bar from, and that's so, but you know what? Fair play to them and, to
Yeah.
everyone involved, good for them.
So did it make you cry watching the advert? Because a lot of my friends watched it.
Listen, I cry at Alan Titchmarsh. You know when they do that garden, when they go, and your mum died, and we planted this tree, and I'm like, and my wife watches, she goes, "What are you crying at? Is that Alan Titchmarsh?" So yes, I probably did. I literally, my emotional trigger is literally it's on a hairline. So yeah, but it did make me quite emotional. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I shed man tears, but who knows?
Because I guess you've got a son as well. So when he comes down the stairs, he's watching his dad like unwrap the
Yeah.
present under the tree.
But which will inevitably be something Star Warsy, which is what I get every year, and I love, by the way.
Oh, would
So
you? So
yeah,
you
yeah,
would be hoping it was something
yeah. But
Star
there's
Wars.
something Star Wars. There's my hint, kids. Star Warsy.
Star Wars for
A
Christmas.
Chewbacca jumper is what I'm
So
after.
so we don't want to be opening a
I
vinyl.
don't want Alison Limerick Where Love Lives. That's for
No.
sure. I've got about 9 copies of that, so I'm all right.
So that's so obviously you've had a very varied career, and there's one thing that I wanted to ask you as well, which maybe affected you personally, was the kind of house fire that
Yeah,
you were in when you were 18.
yeah.
And obviously, I know, just wanted to talk about that to see how it kind of gave you a different perspective on life, really. Yeah, I mean, obviously it was your house, wasn't it? And the fire started.
It's a very if anyone said, "What's the moment that you just thought, right, I'm going to put my heart and soul into this," it was
Mm,
then. And I've got the most wonderful friends that we're still mates now, and we all were. And also being older, being able to look at things that I couldn't see then, partly because you've just been in a trauma, partly because you also don't understand how you should act or where. But I kind of, you have like a survivor's guilt and I didn't feel that I could say to my friends, look, I'm struggling here because they've just lost their friend. Really, I'm the lucky one because I'm there. I'm there,
mm.
I'm lucky. And I didn't feel very lucky. And so not down to my wonderful friends who I love dearly to this day, I needed to just, I was struggling a little bit, and I just thought I've got to throw myself into this, and I kind of disappeared from my group for a little bit and threw myself into work, and you know what, it was an an emotional kind of turning point, and you know, as a human being, it did things to me that I probably didn't understand then, and I do now.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure if I'd have said to all my mates, you know, I don't feel very lucky, I just didn't feel. I think, you know, we're much more aware of mental health, particularly male mental health. We're much more aware of being able to talk to your friends. And I listen. There's no hint that they wouldn't have been there for every. You know, they're wonderful friend, but
Yeah.
I didn't feel that I could reach out,
And
and
back
that's my
then,
fault, not theirs. That's my
yeah.
fault, and I think it made me shrink a little bit, shrink, but also do something else. And I,
Mm.
you know, and it certainly was, a- like I said, a crossroads. You
Mm.
know, I certainly wouldn't want to turn it into like, oh, and something good happened from something bad, because
No,
it's awful. But
but
it made me certainly change direction
mm,
and do something that I wouldn't have done otherwise.
yeah.
Um, you know, and I love the fact that I've still got a lot of the mates. You know, some of my mates we've been friends since we were 11. You know,
I
and
know,
I
it's
see them
so
a lot. I see them a lot. You know, and I've got one who lives in Australia. We've been friends since we we're 12, and I see him a lot. And you know, and it's just I'm very lucky to
you're very lucky
still
to
have
have
them as my
those.
mates.
Yeah, yeah. And so what actually happened in the fire though? Was it something that you had been out and you had fallen asleep, and
Uh,
how did the fire start?
it wasn't. Listen. I'm not really. I don't want to. I'm not going to answer that because I
Yeah.
don't want to go on to blame things. But
No.
it was somewhere else in the house.
Yeah, okay. And you were lucky, and then but basically you were drunk and woke up in time.
I listen. I'm very lucky. You don't wake up from smoky, fiery houses. I
Yeah.
woke up because I needed a pee,
Yeah.
and you know, and I thought the fire was in the pub
Yeah.
because when I was living above the pubs, because I couldn't see flames in the house.
Wow.
So it's yeah,
Yeah. And yeah,
I am lucky.
you are lucky.
Although when I was saying earlier on, I don't, you know, I didn't feel lucky then. I realise now I'm very lucky. You know, it's
Yeah. You talked about obviously about your friends being you know, really there for you, and obviously a good support network, and one of your friends living in Australia. Can I kind of segue into asking about Australia itself? Because obviously you've been on tour there, haven't you? And you had a
yeah.
really great time. What was it that
You know what I
you
loved about
particularly
the
loved about it?
Australian tour? The guy that looks after us, Trent, wonderful human being. You know, when you meet
Mm.
someone later in life, you think, I've got all my mates, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
think,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah,
Love
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. I love you.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so what I quite liked about the tour was everyone, all DJs, was Danny Ramp playing, there's a load of guys, Dynamite, loads of guys, right? We're all on tour, all getting on the same bus, all getting on the same flight, all waking up at the same time.
It's like going on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Well, you're kind of on. Well, you know what it is. You're on tour together. You know, like you're all waiting on the bus. You go, where's he going? You know, the lift opens. Like, you know, there's all. It's just a little bit of everyone doing this thing together, and
Mm,
you know, and it was just. It was really, really good. The gigs were amazing. Sydney was insane at that kind of old. It was very much like a Printworks kind of
mm.
vibe. These guys are really, really good, and I got to hang out in Brisbane with my mate Benny, and I got to. It was just a wonderful tour, and in between the weekends, I'm hanging out with Danny Rampling, and I'm doing, you know, and just doing nice things and seeing all my friends that I've got in Australia. I've got loads of friends in Australia, but I did get home and just thought, you know what? Touring like that, that's for young people, not for
No,
people of
yeah,
55
5
years
years
old.
old.
You know, the flights, literally you're a different city every day, different flight every day. I
Wow.
mean, a couple of days off.
Yeah,
But literally I was like, that was
it's
brutal.
brutal.
It really kicked me in the
Yeah.
nuts, you know, but I'm telling you now, it was so, so good that it was
Really?
worth the pain.
Was
Oh
it
yeah.
how did it differ from UK audiences? How did it
Well, I guess I play a lot in the UK. So when you do go to Oz, you know, I'm probably there every other year or something like that. So, you know, I think the excitement it probably stems from me because I'm excited to be there, and there is a level of excitement because they're, oh, I've not seen you for 2 years. So there
Yeah,
is a little bit of a, you know, electrons bouncing off each other, and it's wonderful. But
yeah.
like I said, you know, and DJ for these guys, the ministry guys over there, Trent and his team, it was just awesome experience.
Awesome. Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're asked to play for them, go do it because they're
Go
great.
do it, really. So the final question I just wanted to ask you, if you could go back to any dance floor in the 90s, where would that be?
Cool. Any dancer on the 90s. That's difficult. I mean, look, I definitely think one of my favorite clubs ever was Pasha in Buenos Aires. That was just great. I think the Cross in its day was wonderful. Terminals was good. Amnesia was good. I don't think I could pick one in particular. I mean, there was just I think it would be any dance floor in that time because they were all good. They were
Good.
all doing something special. And
Mm,
I think, some notable mentions were the ones I've just said, really.
yeah. Well, didn't everyone sit down on the dance floor in Pasha
Yeah.
in Buenos
Yeah, I thought
Aires?
I'd done something wrong because, normally in a breakdown, everyone goes nuts and everyone sat on the floor. And I looked at, I think it was Hanan Catania, and I said to him, I said, what am I doing wrong? Where he goes, no, 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 watch, watch. And as the record came, dun, 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 everyone stood up and starts cheering. I think I've got a video of it somewhere. And it's brilliant. It's amazing. Oh, okay, look, they've gone into
Ah.
shivers, goosebumps, good ones this time. Not ones about getting in at
N-
Monday morning at 9 in the morning.
Not yet.
No.
So, what's next for Seb? What are you up to? What's your rest of
Um,
the year in
I'm
2026?
really happy that I've, the summer, because since COVID, summers are longer.
Mm,
But everyone wants summer gigs. I mean, I think 70 or probably 60, 70% of your work is in the summer now. So I'm
yeah.
quite looking forward to 2 gigs a week or, rather than 5 or 6, just to recharge the batteries. Although I had one weekend off a few weeks ago and I was bored out of my mind and bored out of my mind. You know what? I remember after COVID, and COVID really brutally smacked me in the face and made me realize how much I just love being with people every weekend and loud music and, having fun.
Connecting to
And,
people. Yeah.
look, I got a great dog, but the dog was so sick of my DJ sets after about, a year of lockdown. And I think after lockdown, beforehand, I'd be like, oh, yeah, well, I'll do that because it's near that. After lockdown, I was like, Plymouth, followed by Middlesbrough. I'll do that, and literally I was doing these journeys because I was just so happy to be out, so happy to see people. And I think since then, I've really learned to appreciate more, this wonderful job that we've got, and I look forward to it so much.
Right.
And and I think for a while I kind of was like, yeah, I'll do that, and I'll do that, and I'll do that. Yeah, and I'll see you later. I think this year I might try and be a little bit more picky because
A
I did a
burnout.
lot of gigs this year. Yeah, but you know what? I just love them. It's not burnout. I think it's, well, physical burnout, not
Yeah.
mental
Not,
burnout.
yeah.
Physical burnout potentially, but not excitement levels or
Yeah.
passion,
Or
but
passion.
certainly knees and elbows.
Thank you. Seb, thank you for joining us and rewind back to the 90s and sharing your memories of the 90s.
They
It's
came
been
easier than
very,
I thought.
you were
Considering
really good.
I don't know what I had for breakfast this morning, they came thick and
They
fast.
You're an old pro,
Yeah.
an old hand. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
It was lovely.